Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're going to be looking at the ADPTR, good God, Metric AB. Let's just call it the Metric AB, or the AB, a tool that allows you to check your spectrum analysis, your correlation, the stereo image, dynamics, loudness, and basically compare that to reference sources and see how your material stacks up. And then, of course, check such absolute values like loudness, integrated, short-term, momentary, and so forth, or just like all these metrics just by themselves. But one of the great tools of this is that you can compare everything. And that's a cool thing. And so one of the reference tracks we're using is Always on the Run by Lenny Kravitz, and I have my own version of it. And for the purpose of this exercise here, I'm trying to get close to it and see how this Metric AB can help us. All right, let's dial it in. And my mama said, leave those bad boys alone. And my bad boys alone is a gift. And my mama said, you can be rich or poor. And my mama said, you can be big or small. 'Cause I'm always on the run. And my mama said, you can be rich or poor. But I'm always on the run. My mama said that it's good. And I'm all for. And my mama said, your life is a gift. And my mama said, there's much weight you will lift. Okay, very good. So one of the first things I would be looking at with the Metric AB would be to compare the frequencies. Actually, let me keep looping it here, so we get some visual while I'm talking. This is where the track starts, and then so obviously, in order to compare this, it is a good idea to loop the track that you're working with to the position, to the same area, because if this portion here goes into the solo or goes into the chorus and they're not exactly lined up, then you might not be comparing apples, and you might be comparing apples and oranges. So one of the good things is to just like when you work with reference tracks, to say like, hey, this is the particular portion of a reference track that I like. Let me just take this portion here and then see this is what I think, where I think I should be. It's a good tool to have. With the spectrum analysis, you can go single. So orange is the reference track, blue is your track. You can go dual, and then you can also layer it over each other, and then like see, okay, well, look at this difference here. Here's the difference. We have a quite significant difference here in the frequency between 12 kilohertz and over. Correlation, stereo image. I like showing it like so dual, where I can see, okay, well, my whatever 90 hertz or so, I have very little stereo content. It is all mono. And interestingly, Lenny Kravitz's version has a lot of stereo information, or quite some stereo information on that field. And yeah, maybe that is more natural. Maybe that's what I want as well. Or let's say if this would be my track, it's like, look, I found something that I didn't want to have here. So it's a good comparison to also learn about how commercial tracks sound like and how they are made, and how much content is in the higher frequencies, how much content is in the lower frequencies, how much content, and then also in this case, like what's the stereo information, especially since mid and side processing becomes more and more talked about. Dynamics. So let me just turn on the music here really quickly to check where we're at. Oh, we're in the solo, all right. So one of the things is in the playback, you can match the loudness. So the reason is why, because I matched Lenny's loudness. And let's see.
Mama said that it's good to be
So similar places in the track. It's comparing. So minus 1.6 dB is what Lenny is being turned down. So we are 1.6 dB lower. So they turn Lenny down. And now you can see the comparison. And now when we do the stereo, when we do dynamics. Difference here with the snare drum, as you can hear. But one of the things you can see immediately that Lenny's version is squashed to loud, and my version is a between loud and competitive. Something that you probably, most more recent mixes have a higher dynamic range than stuff material from the 90s. But it's a good way to look at it. Also look at the ADPTR streamer, which shows you how different websites interpret your track and if they're going to turn it down or up and so forth. So my dynamic range goes up to 10. Lenny right here was like super squashed. It's very super. Keep in mind, this is also an MP3 version, so I'm not sure, if this is the exact copy of what's going on the album. But those are some interesting tools. If you want to mimic something, loop the portion of a song that you feel like is like yours, you'd like to use as a reference. And once you click here, then it starts measuring the dynamics. The loudness can be checked at any time. Of course, the integrated loudness starts building up over time. And then you got momentary, which is right now, and then you got short term. Also the perceived loudness, loudness range, true peak, RMS, and so forth. So PLR is 7.6, 7.0. That is pretty much all. No, I'm sorry. This is not all I have just yet. Forgot. My bad. One of the things you can use here is to zoom in on certain parts of the frequency range. For example, just the bass. And then see how it stacks up against Lenny's. It's fairly close. It's not a huge difference. I mean, keep in mind, we're also, on the bass, I tried to be as close as possible to his bass player. I think it was him. It was him. On the guitars, though, we didn't have the guitar and that sound, so the guitar just sounds different. And then, of course, the vocalist is just not Lenny. It's great. I love it, but it's not the same voice, so you're not gonna be able to copy that exactly. Plus, where would be the fun in that? Let's look at the highs. So that's some nice feedback. Now let's listen to the sub, if you can hear it. So if you heard nothing, that's totally understandable. You'd have to have good headphones and a good volume to listen to that. Then we have the mids. They are critical in this genre.
And my mama said, go get all that you're after. And my mama said that love,
small speakers, right?
That matters.
And here's I think where you hear most of the differences in the song is here in this mid-range. And by zooming in, we also get in the levels here for the stereo. It highlights basically the stereo image. We're getting it in the correlation, and then the spectrum curve sub. It just gives you it just monitors this. But I think this is best to be done with your ears. So a very useful tool here, Metric AB. It does exactly what it says it does. It's a comparative tool. It's very clean, clear. It allows you to find inconsistencies. You know, in my version, for example, I'm noticing so if you look at it, there is definitely a roll-off here from 13K and up that Lenny does not have. And so one of the things, you know, the natural instinct would be to use this information from our eyes and say like, okay, well, here we have our 12 hertz boost. Fair and dandy, but just doesn't sound right. So we'll have to go back. We can't fix it on the master bus that easily. We have to go back and see what elements that might be in the mix. So it's a great feedback tool, but it's a good way to give you an idea and then send you basically back and say like, hey, here is where my mix has some mixing issues. And I think this is great. That's why the Metric AB is part of Plugin Alliance's Mix and Master Bundle. That's a cool thing. So by the way, this Waves compressor limiter, I really like it. Let me show you what it does. We got the SPL Iron.
Always on the run, always on the run.
I like them both, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not quite sure which one I prefer. In this case, just listen, just switch them back and see what feels best. But yeah, I like the DPR 402, not one of their best sellers for sure. And then I'm backing this up here with a L3 multi-maximizer where I'm actually already going back in here 6,300 hertz, and I'm just boost a tiny bit, and in the mids here between 32 and 500 I dip this a bit, and here as well. So that's about it. Thanks for checking this out. Let me know how you are using the Metric AB, and then again check out the new Streamliner plugin that they have. Unfortunately, I have not seen it on sale yet. It's quite recent, but would be one of my favorites. Thanks so much for checking in.
And my mama said, there's much weight you will lift.